Can the Oklahoma Sooners build off of a strong 2024 freshman class season? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton, getting you ready for all of the big tournament action in conference play and March Madness. Do it on Locked On College Basketball. So, Jay, the freshman class we know was stout for the Sooners. It was led by Jaden Jackson and Eli Bowen, but we also got big-time contributions from a guy like Xavier Robinson, here and there from Taylor Tatum, and you saw some of their redshirt freshmen get significant playing time. CBS Sports gave Oklahoma's freshman class a B+. Where do you think that's a fair grade for that class?
In comparison to everybody else that they mentioned, feels like it's a little low. I'm looking at Georgia. They had Nate Frazier, KJ Bolden, and then Chris Cole was their great start, but that's it. Just 3 players, right? Texas had some really good hits, and Colin Simmons as well as Ryan Wingo. And then Kobe Black was good. Jared Gibson, he got hurt. I totally get it. But for us, I think it's a fair spot. I do think it's a little low. Jaden Jackson, Eli Bowen stepping up so fast, being that good, amazing. Xavier Robinson in that big game that he had against Alabama when he had the opportunity to actually play the full game. Yeah, game changers. I mean, he showed us that against Maine. It's like, okay, it's Maine. We'll see what that means. And then you get him against Alabama, you're like, oh.
Okay.
Didn't realize that existed. So now you got to see Michael Hawkins was also an example because he wasn't horrible. You could tell the youth there and him trying to figure it out on his own. But the biggest question is, I like the great starts they pointed out with Taylor Tatum, Zion Kearney, Ivan Carry-On, Zion Ragin, with Michael Hawkins and Xavier Robinson. I do think the start was pretty solid for a lot of them. And I could say that it's fair. We didn't lose a lot out of that class, but I do think that class was a lot better than a lot of people expected.
Well, if you're comparing it to like what Alabama had with Ryan Williams, obviously that's an A+ freshman season for the Crimson Tide. No matter what else you get anywhere else, Ryan Williams and his performance. But you kind of had something similar in Jaden Jackson at defensive tackle. It's just not as splashy of a position that Jaden Jackson plays. But the dude was really, really good. The fact that he was able to earn a starting role coming out of fall camp is a testament to the kind of player that he is and the kind of player that he can be. Because I think we're still just scratching the surface of his potential with the Sooners. Another year in the offseason training program, another year to continue to bulk up and get strong with Schmitty. And I mean, the trajectory is still pointing upward for him. I think same for Eli Bowen. I mean, it's tough to be out there on an island against SEC wide receivers. It is tough. You're going to get beat sometimes, especially if you're a true freshman. But there's a lot to really like about what he can do for you on a football field. The instincts are there. It's now just kind of honing in on some of the finer details of playing cornerback at this high of a level. So I think it's, again, B+. I think it's a good place to be. You didn't really get as much as you needed out of your wide receiver group. They did a few nice things here and there, but it was kind of up and down and inconsistent. You never really found a guy that could really take hold of an opportunity at wide receiver. Offensive line, if you want to include, I mean, this is about the 2024 recruiting class. So you didn't really get significant contributions out of your offensive linemen from the 2024 class. You saw them enter the game here and there, but it wasn't in meaningful competition. But I expect this year that we start to see an Eddie Pierre-Louis really become a significant part of the offensive line rotation, Isaiah Autry-Dent as well. And they're going to continue to push some of these veterans on the team and could end up finding starting roles on this team in 2025. And that's not an indictment of where your offensive line is. It's just because those guys are really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you ask for, is to have a freshman class that at least get a light amount of contribution. And when they do play, they actually show you something. Eli Bowen, Jaden Jackson showed you something immediately. Like you mentioned, you didn't get a lot from your offensive line, unfortunately. And it's mainly because, the veterans in front, they weren't supposed to get hurt as fast as they did. And, I think the one that was really ready to play, Eddie Pierre-Louis, him not coming in the spring really hurt as far as learning the playbook and getting prepared. I know Isaiah Autry-Dent, he was dealing with a couple of little injury situations or whatnot that's kind of held him back. But he picked up that book fast and he's ready to go out there and start mauling people. And we saw glimpses of what he can be as long as he, sharpen his footwork and keep getting stronger. You're going to see a lot of progress forward. And so, yeah, that's what you would have liked to see more of. But the good thing is we played a lot of snaps at freshman. I think we played some of the most in college football. That's like the second year in a row we were in the top when it comes to snaps from young players, which does nothing but benefit you long term as long as those players continue to develop. And I think we're at that point where they are developing. We're not seeing any true regressions. We just need to get some other players to step up. Really get some more other players, young players, to really step up and make it happen. But Eli and Jaden Jackson being a hits, question is, where's David Stone? I'm ready to see him break out. This is going to be his breakout year.
Well, even if it's not this year, you're going to get a breakout from him at some point. And I know we live in this world where you want immediate gratification. I get that. You want to see all of your true freshmen have standout true freshman seasons and go be impactful players, but it's a developmental game and everybody's timeline is a little bit different. David Stone, this could be the year. I mean, he's going to get an opportunity. You didn't add a significant defensive tackle option in the transfer portal. So you're bringing in a rotation that's going to look like Dominic Williams and Grayson Halton and Jaden Jackson and David Stone.
Yeah.
That's your 4-man rotation on the interior defensive line, and that's really salty. The other one, I think we've talked about it a lot over the last few weeks, and that's Danny Okoye. I think that's a guy that's going to have a chance to really have a big impact this year as part of your defensive end rotation. We talked about Eddie Pierre-Louis. I think the wide receiver group from the 2024 recruiting class is going to continue to get better. Devon Mitchell, that's a guy I think is going to have an opportunity to make an impact and make a splash. They didn't bring anybody in the transfer portal that should stop them from playing him if he's the best option at tight end.
Yeah.
If he can continue to develop and he can get all the things right off the field that he has to have right, he's got the talent, he's got the size, he's got the physical ability. It's just making sure he's got everything locked up so that he can go and perform on the football field. And I think maybe this year we start to see that.
Yeah, I think we're there with a lot of these young players we've been really waiting to, I guess, explode. I think the ones that are going to, this will be the year for those 23s and 24s. Mm-hmm. I think this is that year. The 22s, they're either just probably on the roster hanging out and being there. But I think the 23s and 24s are ready to go ahead and break out. You may see a couple of 25s actually show up as well. And I'm going to be excited about that. I got a couple of ideas of who may be the ones that could do that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're at that point, John. Season's coming up. When we start practicing, we start doing the get the practice reports throughout the week. Yeah, we're going to inject that in our veins and really be excited. Let's get that going.
Yeah, the depth chart looks nice. Now it's just a matter of going winning football games.
That's it.
The development is happening. You've got really good depth on both sides of the ball. Now it's just time to perform. Spring ball is about to get set, get underway. Make sure you tune into Locked On Sooners wherever you get your podcast. We will cover it all here daily for you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you go follow Jay on Twitter at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. And you can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can follow the show at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. Make sure, again, you go check out the Locked On College Basketball Podcast with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton, getting you ready for March Madness. You got your tournament bracket ready to fill out, and you need some answers about some potential upsets in that 12-5, go check out the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. They'll give you all the information that you need to get ready for the big dance. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.
Here's hope in Oklahoma's dancing.
Hope, hope, hope.